Welcome to the DevReady podcast, where we're helping non-techs build great tech. Today, fortunate enough to be joined by Anita. She is the CEO of Anitech, a risk consulting business. Been in that space for 20 plus years, from my understanding, so quite a little while. A lot of experience in risk and risk management across assisting many corporate organisations, small businesses, etc. We got to know Anita by working with her on a project that is now Lehibo, which is taking effectively all the learnings from consulting world, Anita, and bringing them into a platform and how we might productize risk management and serve risk managers better within organizations. Anita, thanks for joining us and coming on and sharing a little bit about going from service to product businesses. It's not easy, it's complex, it's different shift in mindset, and really appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Anita, tell us a little bit about you. How did Anitech begin in the beginning? Where did it all stem from? And let's dig into Anitech first, and we'll go into Lehiba a little bit after that.
I started Anitech when I was about 27 years old. So I was working as a graduate engineer with a number of industries in manufacturing, and I have an inherent interest in technology and particularly in software development, even at that stage, because part of my degree was computer science. So I played around with a lot of coding, more in the mechanical engineering context, so with pumps and equipment and manufacturing equipment. So I was always interested in like PLCs, SCADA systems, as well as software development, particularly in Java. So I was playing around with coding as part of my degree anyway. So I was working in a compliance engineer role when I decided that I really enjoyed that and I really wanted to pursue a career in that. It was about 4 years into my career, and I was involved in an audit with a large Big Four consulting firm who audited the company that I was working for at the time, which was CSR. And one of the consultants actually really liked my approach in compliance, and he suggested that I should either join a Big Four or start my own business. And I really had a bit of a think about it at that point, and then decided to actually start my own business, which was a big thing. I think I went to it in a very sort of I just knew I had to start a business. So, and I started with my networks actually, and I was very lucky in that pretty much from day one, I had projects where I was involved with other manufacturing firms, helping them with compliance updates, helping businesses put together policies and procedures, and also even in software evaluation. So even in those days when I started the business, I had to talk about how technology could solve problems, and I would often recommend technology to our clients. And that's how it started, basically. So Anitech was just me for the first 10 years. And
Oh wow!
then,
So just
and then,
single consulting,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Well, it's a lot in that, right? So you're doing the selling, you're engaging with the customers, you're actually doing the work and consulting. It's but that's a nice little business because there's no other reliance. It's just you sometimes. It becomes more complex as we grow and evolve, as you know. Jumping into business on your own, what was that decision point for you? Was it okay, I'm young, let's give it a go, or you just thought that you would add some value and this would be a right path for you?
For me, it was actually led by supporting customers. I really saw that there was a niche where it was really underserved at that time. And there was particularly aligned more to small to medium businesses. So large companies that I'd worked for already had risk and compliance teams and compliance engineers that would help businesses navigate regulations, help them with risk. But small to medium businesses didn't have that resource. It was too expensive to have dedicated staff and often didn't have the resourcing. So I really wanted to support small to medium enterprises and help them and with my knowledge and help them with, so that they don't become disrupted,
Yep.
and be able to provide their own services to their clients. So it was very much led by my um, vision for customer service
Hmm.
and what I wanted to achieve. And that sort of actually gets me out of bed every day,
Yeah,
is
brilliant.
supporting our
Yeah.
customers. So so I only had a handful of customers at the start with in the first couple
Mhm.
of years, but it was great. I learned so much. And every time I would work with a CEO or a CFO in a company,
Mhm.
small to medium enterprises, and there's a lot of family-owned businesses, really, really learned a lot about running businesses from them. So it was almost like a learning journey both ways. I was
Oh,
learning.
it is,
Of,
isn't it? Especially when you're
yeah,
consulting into businesses, you just learn how they operate, how they think, and
yeah,
you take little nuggets from different people that you work with along the journey. I totally get that, especially if you're working at a CEO level. Well, how do they make decisions? And then in terms of how might they structure things, risk in every business is always there, and there are components of risks. What's changed since you began to now? Especially technology has become quite expansive and a big part of business. I imagine that's expanded quite a bit with data security. These particular areas are quite pivotal these days. Manufacturing has evolved. There's a lot of safety components to that, I would imagine, is probably the key crux of that. What's been some shifts that you've seen in the space?
um, how I look at it is, in the earlier days, so we always had software to manage. I was quite familiar with SAP, and so
Yeah.
larger companies would often have um, you know, much more complex, like IBM products or Salesforce products. We'd always had software alongside risk and compliance. So risk is all about the uncertainty in business, and it can be any type of risk that businesses are trying to mitigate, from safety risks to financial risks to quality risks or of environmental risk or information security, data, all of these, and plus many more. There's a number of risks that a business can get disrupted if they don't manage it properly, particularly from a compliance perspective, because in Australia, it's a highly regulated industries through our regulators. A lot of legislation in every state, and so in the original, regulations was also very individual, state-based when I first started my career. So having to study the regulations in each and acts and regs in every state, and the differences really gave us an edge, or gave me an edge, in terms of trying to help businesses across Australia. So there was a lot of interpreting regulations, and I'm trying to explain how that actually impacts them, helping them to self-evaluate, and then actually put some control actions and mitigation. So this is the framework through which I would operate. And it was very manual. Often the tools that I would use is, obviously I didn't have, as a young consultant, didn't have access to software products because they were too expensive in those days. So I would often use Excel very well, of course, and
You
and,
get
and
proficient in things,
yeah,
don't
we
you?
get in macros
Yeah,
and
yeah.
VBA.
Hmm.
Having understanding a little bit of coding, I could set it up so that it provides that prioritization of risk, and I would try and build my own dashboards through graphs and present reports to the CEOs. So it was very manual labor. It took a lot of understanding about data
Hmm.
and data analysis. I really loved that aspect of my work. I mean, well, for me, it wasn't just policy or procedure writing to manage risk. It was, how do you actually implement it on the ground? What's the cost to the business? How are you going to improve your efficiency? So by putting in controls and managing risk. So yeah, so it was all very manual. And then, as I think Microsoft's products, as they evolved, particularly with Power BI,
Hmm.
it became a lot more easier to be able to adapt and learn those technologies, and then show our customers, ways to understand data. And then over time, as you can see to now, I the last particularly 3-4 years, I think after COVID, there's been an explosion of software platforms do-it-yourself, no-code platforms.
Yeah, there has
You can
been, and
dice,
it's
slice and
all
dice
yes.
data any number of ways.
Mm.
Again, we've got AI now, so customers are using AI in their own businesses. So it's always shifting. So it's also about keeping on top of technology
Mhm.
now. So there are a lot of customers already use technology. That's probably how it's changed the adoption of technology. The low cost of developing technology has become made it easier for businesses to adopt that.
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of tools off the shelf stuff that we can get access to quite effectively these days. You mentioned AI, that's changed the landscape in a lot of business, and but you still see some businesses that aren't adopting, and you concern yourselves, why aren't you adopting such a tool that can support you into day to day, especially knowledge working? There's a huge uplift in productivity can be seen if you invest the time and energy into understanding it. But that
Yeah.
also opens up a bit of a risk too in terms of company IP. Has this conversation come up in terms of organizations around how do they manage their IP as they work with AI? I'm sure there's that
Yes.
risk side does pop up. What does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one important thing to note, which I should mention, is Anitech has also evolved over time. So when we started, as I said, with risk and compliance, particularly around quality, safety, and environment, but
Mhm.
over time we've now using technology a lot more in Anitech to help again manage these risks for businesses. And we've actually expanded our services beyond just advisory. So we do advisory now, we do audit, and we also do occupational hygiene and health monitoring data. Again, it's all the whole business is collecting data, and our role now is really to help businesses navigate that risk landscape with real time and data which tells them about themselves as a business so that they can make fact-based decisions. So with AI coming in, I still see two sides of the spectrum.
Mhm.
In small to medium businesses, particularly, obviously the larger businesses have teams that they can, they have resources that where they could resource a person to learn AI or get some
Mm.
specialist advice from consulting firms on AI. Anitech ourselves have now developed an AI team within our business, and we are scaling our own services to help customers navigate what AI can do for them. So adopting it in a responsible way, and what are some safe ways to share data, and what are the IP risks
Mm.
associated with that. So we are having conversations about and even training with customers on what is responsible adoption of AI look like.
Mm.
So we regularly have webinars and things
Mhm.
that we have with our customers, and we invite our customers just a conversation, and we share the information that we have, and customers also tell us what they're thinking. But still saying that, small to medium, particularly the small businesses, are still a bit unsure.
Mhm.
I don't think they have great policies in place around what AI should look like. And but some customers have also adapted it very well. I've had customers call me and say, "Well, we're going to write all our own policies and procedures. We just need you to come in and audit." So it's shifting the
Mm.
way we do work in
It
a
would,
little bit.
it will, yeah, because you can
Yeah,
obviously work with AI to produce some policies and procedures, and then how do we
yeah,
implement them and audit them? There
uh,
are ways that it's closing the gap for people to be able to execute on certain areas that they probably wouldn't have in the past or been able to
yeah,
in the past.
yeah,
Small business is always left to a point of policies and procedures at a small business level. Do you see organizations investing in this area? In manufacturing, you'd have to, obviously,
yeah.
but in some small areas, people probably don't invest enough in this space and can obviously create risk for them on themselves without unknowing
Absolutely.
areas.
If they
Yeah.
don't adopt, they're going to
Mm.
be disrupted. This is
Mhm.
the I feel AI is as big as you know when the computers came on. It's as
It's
big a shift
it feels
from
bigger than
like
anything that I've seen.
yes,
It feels like it's bigger than the internet. The adoption curve has been exponential and so quickly
yeah,
too as
yeah.
to what's happening.
But interestingly enough, as I said, there's pockets of customers from our landscape who do reach out and ask us some amazing questions. We had a customer reach out to us recently at Anitech and ask us, "Can you develop an AI agent for our sales
Mm-hmm.
process?" And we said,
Okay.
"Okay, we
Yeah.
can take a look at
Yeah.
that." It's about
Mm.
problem solving at the end of the day
Mm.
as well.
It
So
is.
we
Yeah.
love helping businesses connect with the right technology
Yes.
and be able to use it to help them do business process better.
Hmm.
So
Yep, that's
in
yeah,
that
because that's what
way,
effectively what it is, right? There
yeah,
are workflows and engines that we can use. A product that we're using internally a lot is N8N. That enables us to do custom workflows with AI, internalized content, different certain things, sales processes. So it's important that you probably understand the tech so that you can see how you might integrate it. And workflows is a
yeah,
really interesting way because the reality is just one person working with a ChatGPT, for example, is value adds. But if we can bring a step-by-step workflow, you can really see exponential value added to the organization. Yeah.
absolutely. I think, and we're constantly evolving our services,
Mm.
Anitech, to match it to the customer needs,
Mm.
and it's ever evolving.
Yeah, it always is. Yeah, brilliant. So that's a bit about Anitech. Now let's talk a little bit how you jumped into Lahibo. So you obviously found a gap in the market that you've seen. So Lahibo, just for everyone's context, and mentioned at the start, is a software SaaS platform that's targeted at risk managers effectively. And Anita will share a little bit more about what it is and what the vision is in the next part of the episode. But shifting from consulting to a SaaS product, this is the area that I want to dig in a little bit. At what point did you make that decision that we really needed to invest in some technology to serve our clients better and then provide a solution like Lahibo? And why didn't you jump in? Because it is a very unknown, right? In terms of jumping
Yeah,
in. You obviously got some software background. You've seen this a bit, but what made you jump in and say, "Yeah, no, we really need to do this as a business to innovate and evolve?"
yeah. So again, came out of a customer need. We did have some conversations with software companies um, in relation to particularly around risk simplification and legislation compliance for small to medium enterprise because I found that we were still doing Excel for many um, companies that, and then we wanted to get away from the Excel sheet, literally, and
Yeah.
because it was very siloed, it's manual. You don't, there's a limited organizational visibility, and this
Hmm.
was often the issues our customers talked about. And they really, and I could see how a organization-wide platform could help. So we actually initially didn't want to invest. I must say, I actually thought let's use an off-the-shelf program. Let's
Okay.
custom fit it to Anitech's requirements, and we will execute it. And then when we approached a number of different software platforms, it became very apparent the entry point for software purchase, even this was about 4 years ago,
Hmm.
was too high for small to medium business. They would
Yep.
never spend the amount of money that the actual, these platforms were asking. It was not,
Hmm.
and I must say the last 2 years has seen a huge evolution in, lowering the price per month per user. But in
Hmm.
4 years ago, there still wasn't a huge adoption of the simplification of user-based platform
Costing,
usage.
yeah,
So,
and bottles,
so
yes.
we really struggled to find a company. Then we found one company, and we actually offered to say to them, well, we're happy to invest in your
Hmm.
platform. Can we make it so that you could be part of Anitech, and then unfortunately that offer was refused. So,
Okay.
despite giving some ideas and everything else, so then
Yep.
we realized, okay, we need to do something. There is a gap in the market again, so we wanted to develop. It was a big undertaking, I must say.
Hmm.
It was not done without thought. We spent about a year planning
Hmm.
and doing some mock-ups with customers, with our, the customers who are willing to go on us with this journey. And we used some drawings, pictures, Excel, even, and showing them like a prototype, if you like.
Hmm.
And I also, because I had not been involved in software development for over 10 years, personally, I actually went and started learning about the startup space and
Okay.
spent a lot of time studying startups and how they evolve, what are the pitfalls, what are the,
Hmm.
because it's completely different for me personally and our founder. We've done services for so long.
Hmm.
We had very limited knowledge on how to actually develop a product as such, and that to a software product. Although we had done little, we've evaluated, we've done some little miniature, little automated things. But I've done personally, I've done some little programs that are executable files, if you like, but nothing to this scope and scale. And yeah, so it was a big undertaking. We did try to partner as well with some other industry people,
Hmm.
but again, I think being so small as a consulting firm, we did have some challenges to even
Okay.
get it off the ground.
Hmm. They always starts with challenges, right? And the learning, it's quite fascinating. You dug in. Where did you go to learn about startup and technology? What did you do? Did you just jump on YouTube? Did you go to any
Yeah,
specific accelerators? Did you do
yes.
anything along those lines?
So I did. So we actually joined the Startup Victoria program,
Hmm.
and I also subscribed to Colin Kinner's on-ramp
Oh yeah,
program. And
yeah,
that was my first entry into the startup world. I mean, he was a bit of a mentor for me because I mean that's where I even floated the idea of
yes.
Lahibo, and it's there. I did the course, which was really helpful because it told me all about the pitfalls and what to avoid.
Hmm.
I didn't want having such a small budget. We didn't really have a lot of money to, we just couldn't get it wrong, and
Hmm.
so I wanted to, limit the risk to ourselves as it was a purely 100% investment.
Hmm.
So we really, I'd studied YouTube videos. I'm also a big fan of Ash Maria and Leanstat,
Yep.
his books, and I subscribed to his blogs and
Hmm.
became like started reading and absorbing his books as well. So a lot of books, a lot of learning, self-learning, and also speaking. I think the hardest for me was I tend to be very sometimes too technical, and I'm always sort of in the books, not enough out there networking. And this is it's probably one of the first things I think I had to learn and change. Probably Lahiva has had the biggest impact on me in that way. I've had to become
Interesting.
more a
Yeah.
networking person to get the message out there.
Yeah.
So we did pitch in the EIBCs.
Hmm.
For it was one of my first ever pitches, and we won a little award. And well, award was a small startup space in the EIBC, um, and in Mulgrave. And that was a good start for me because that just showed me that, okay, I am, people are understanding that space. It's not just me thinking it's a great idea. Um,
It's validation, right? It's
Validation,
going through that. It's
but it
in.
is not without its challenges. I mean, I'll probably
Mm,
say
yep.
80% challenge and
Yes.
20%
Yep.
perseverance is what my energy has been
Isn't
around
that
this.
isn't that what every business is? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on
No,
what the experience is
I
like
think
through. Yeah.
the reason
Anitech,
I
a
say
little
that
bit
is
different.
consulting was
Mm.
different for me. It was like a
Okay.
natural
Yeah.
fit, and I never had to look for a customer ever in my life in
Okay.
my
So it's just
23
completely
years.
different and walking in
It
different
was
water for you.
like,
Yes.
yeah, it was completely different because for the first time in my life, I was out of my
Mhm.
comfort zone. And at
Mm.
Anitech, it's always, I mean, people understood what we did. We had customers coming in every day, never not a day. So it was a great like a service
Mhm.
market fit, if you
Yes.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then suddenly having a new product, and this when we launched Lahibo, there was another dozen other platforms similar to Lahibo that launched at the same
Okay.
time, are
Yeah.
very well funded.
Interesting.
And so they had millions of dollars in venture capital funding,
Hmm.
and then we were with a little prototype
Mm.
launching to the market, which was really hard because then I had to learn fast to scale, and really try and get the customers. Because for me, it's about customers. If we don't have customers, we don't have a platform.
Mm.
It doesn't. I didn't really go after funding for the first 4 years for this reason. I wanted to build the customers, and I want to
Mhm.
make sure there's a product market fit. And without a fit, there's no product. So it doesn't.
There's
And I
no
didn't want to
business
waste
without a
anybody's
product market
money.
fit, right? Yeah, and I feel you on that because the reality is, yes, if we can't get customers on the platform, we don't have product market fit. So we need to evolve and get to that. In terms of now, this is a question which everyone out there that's in consulting might think this is simple. Has it been easy to convert your current customers onto the platform? Or has that been a difficult task for you? Or has that been, how have you approached that? Because when people in
Yeah.
consulting come to me and they say, I'm just going to put all our customers on the platform, there it's not that simple. And I think you may have found that a little bit
Yep.
too. So what's that experience been like for
Uh,
you?
I It's all about marketing, is what I've learned,
Hmm. Hmm.
and networking.
Yeah.
The product, I think, has a fit based on what our customers tell us and use it. I again, and then this is just my story. Obviously, others could say different things, but what I found was the customers who validated the prototype, 50% signed on, which is great,
Mm.
which is and which is good. There was two corporate customers that I wanted them to sign on, but they actually ended up choosing a very expensive platform.
Okay, so they
And
went
to
that one
date, I
path.
know for
Yeah.
a fact they don't use it 100%. They use probably
Okay.
20% of it.
Yeah, that's the
We wanted
big clunky software. That's the reality. You go and pay
that's
for
the
a
reality.
Salesforce, you use 10% of it. So that's
Yeah,
generally what happens.
and the only reason they went for that is because it was the marketing, the
Hmm.
sales
Mm.
pitches, and then it's just that they were happy to spend the money.
Mm.
Our product was more about, okay, here's the for the risk and compliance managers, here's a product that's going to help. It's a tool to help
Hmm.
you manage your risk and compliance. And I think in the initial, when we were not very good at marketing the product. Again, our
Hmm.
learning was in the consulting space and services industry space. We knew how to market to that, but we
Hmm.
didn't know how to market to a product. So
It
again,
is completely different if people aren't aware,
it's
because
different, and the
we've done this in our
conversation's very
business.
different.
It's like, yes, consulting's very different too. And I'm the same as you. I find consulting conversion a lot easier than products because it's really it's a simple way to dive into the problem for the customer, especially when you're consulting and understand and analyze and work with them, co-create. That's what I find is a lot easier than here's a product. This is what it can do for you. You got to try and bring. If I find if you can bring the two flavors of a bit of consulting and product together, that generally gets to a better outcome.
Yeah,
But easier
and
said than done
so
because it's a
it's
different
easier.
shift.
So
Yeah.
yeah, because I think when we launched Lahiba, initially we wanted to focus on Lahiba as a product rather than as a
Yes.
combined with service. I
Mm.
wanted, again, as I said, I was very adamant that I wanted to see a product market fit.
Good.
I
Good.
didn't realize it can take actually a number of years. I thought it
Yeah.
was a instant,
Yeah.
either they get it or they don't. A lot of our customers didn't get it.
Yeah.
So we actually now branched into two segments. One is with consulting services, and
Hmm.
it's picked up a lot more once we started
Mm.
offering implementation support and helping them
Makes
set it
sense.
up and then training. And I don't know, it's sort of my thinking has just been challenged. So I had to adopt,
Yeah.
okay, this is what the customers want.
Yeah.
Um, they don't want a product by itself. And actually, I think we were very well resourced in that perspective
Hmm.
because we had the Anitech team
Hmm.
already. They've been through the
Able
development
to,
process.
yeah,
They were
deliver
able
on that.
to now, instead of doing it in Excel, they were able to help transform those tools onto the platform on Lahibo.
Yeah.
And particularly the risk, I think people started, our clients in the Anitech side really, really liked it. It helped them solve a problem around audit time. So they
Hmm.
cut their audit time preparation in probably half, and they were able to be more efficient. And it has um, definitely, they didn't need another consultant to come in and help them do
Hmm.
all this in Excel and explain this to management reporting. With dashboards, they were able to share that to their management team. So again,
Yes.
as well as auditors, and they were able to demonstrate compliance to policies and procedures. So from that point of view, our customers definitely got the platform. It was just about going out to market separately
Mm.
on its own as a product,
Hmm.
which I think it's just the marketing and the way we communicated to our
Hmm.
audience wasn't quite on point, because people often confused us with other very big products on the market.
Okay.
And they didn't understand the difference between a risk and compliance software and a safety software or an environmental software. Ours is
Yeah,
risk
it's
and compliance.
communication. I was on a podcast the other day, and there's product market fit, and his name was Halen. He mentioned message market fit. So you've got to test your messaging too, and is that actually resonating and capturing attention, which gets you in front of them to then test product market fit before you have to get the messaging right. So I found that quite fascinating as to, okay, throw 100 things at a dartboard and see which lands in probably
Yeah.
marketing. It can be a little bit like that.
It's very interesting because for consulting purposes, it's you can have a bit more of a dedicated
Yep.
industry. So we're even in Anitech, we're industry agnostic. We can work our services around any industry. However, what the industries that predominantly came to us were in manufacturing or construction, so
Yes.
heavily based around health and safety, as well
Hmm.
as quality or environmental services, as well as information so security. This was the area, the industry. We were not in the financial sector
Hmm.
or so pharmaceutical
Yes.
sector in the compliance space. So it was so we knew the target market that our services had the best fit to. But in Lahibo, what again, it's industry agnostic. You can work it across any number of different industries and
Which is a
globally as well,
challenge in
which is a completely
itself.
different
Yeah, we've had this chat offline.
perspective.
It's a challenge to market everyone, and I think the learning from
So who
maybe
do we market
Anitech,
to?
who do you market to? In my mind, it's always picking a niche to begin with product. So
Yep.
maybe it's the manufacturing side of things because you can clearly get a message out there, build landing pages specifically for them, communicate them in a specific way to their known problems. You really have to set up different streams of comms based on who you're talking to. That's where product becomes a
Yeah.
bit more challenging,
Yep.
especially when you're just trying to convert online. It's a very different thing altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing,
Mhm.
one I've learned from Lahibo, obviously being
Yep.
part of the startup, is that throw away your learning about your customers, start again.
Yeah.
And this has been good because for me, I had to challenge myself
Yes.
to not get caught up in the way I think the world works in terms of
Hmm.
running a business or having a startup. Anitech itself was a startup 23 years ago.
Yes.
Completely different journey to what Lahibo has been. Lahibo
Hmm.
as a startup, completely chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
And I've had to adapt and be resilient,
Hmm.
which again was new to me because resilience, yes, I'm resilient, but
Yeah.
how much, like, especially my goal to chase that product market fit really, I think this threw us in all sorts of directions.
Hmm.
And really wanted to test that message to market, which
Yes.
I think we're working on right now finally,
Yeah. Yeah.
which will hopefully help us elevate it and take it to the new industries. Because one of the things feedback we've heard, although my understanding of manufacturing industry and how they need risk and compliance services, you know, that's been proven. Yes, it's a great fit, similar to construction, and
Hmm.
we work in aviation, we work with government, all these industries in Anitech, great. But with Lahibo, the industries that have come to us thinking this is a great product have been financial services sector, and the ever evolving regulation around financial services regulation and product regulation in that space,
Hmm.
um, and aviation as well. So there's some
The
different
highly regulated industries all of a
highly
sudden you
regulated
found.
industries are
Yeah.
seeing this as
Mm.
and also it really appeals to those that don't want a complicated platform
Hmm.
and who
Yep.
want a simple platform.
Mm.
Again, there's you can take it in different. Risk is a very
Yes.
complex space. You can take it to the nth degree with
Yeah.
different risk management methodology and models.
Hmm.
We've given everyone a very simple model
Mm.
based on the risk management standard, which is the ISO 31000 standard. So
Hmm.
it satisfies that requirement, but it's simple, and we want our users to use 100% of the software,
Hmm.
not 20%. So
Yeah.
therefore, it's priced for that
Yes.
point of
That
view. But
point
again,
makes sense.
our, yeah, our customers, we're
Yeah.
getting challenged, I guess, on the customers. We have to really change our own mindsets. Like I've had to change it to really say, okay, it's going to be maybe a better fit in this
Hmm.
industry than and with this type of person than what my expectations were. So I had to change that.
It will continue to evolve all the time, and I think that's the journey of a startup. You need to be comfortable in pivoting and learning that. So going from consulting where we're quite comfortable and just this podcast putting together for people that are out there thinking about doing something like this, because it's probably not going to be as smooth as you think. That's the reality. And building a new business, a startup on the side, it's not going to, in your mind, what you found, it doesn't serve, maybe might not serve the entire customer base of Anitech. Maybe it's a specific niche, and then the messaging changes, and that takes time. And when we think that everyone will buy and not everyone buys, it becomes a bit of a kick in the face. And okay, what do we do now? It can be a bit frustrating. What's the next step? We've invested. We know there's an opportunity here. We can see there's some customers buying, but maybe it's not having the uptake that we expected for maybe what reasons that we don't know yet. And that's really unpacking the unknown is where the challenge lies in product.
I agree. I think there's a lot in the software world around marketing, and the
Yes.
sales activities have to be very strong, and really introducing the product and its capability to multitude of customers.
Yes.
As part of Labo, it's not just about the product or the market fit. What I've had to learn very quickly is that whole financial aspect of running a startup. It's been a very big eye opening for me, and having to deal with not only the actual product and the customers, but also all the back end part of it with software development team. So we've used obviously Arion technologies, and I've felt the most comfortable since we joined with you guys,
Excellent.
because obviously you're building tech for non-tech founders, which is good, which is the reason we came to you. And having a partner, I think, who you can trust and help you on this journey is really critical. Whilst again, technology startups, I feel if I was to give this advice to anybody thinking about it, is you need to have a good team. And someone said to me recently, you need a rock star team to be successful in the software space. He said, look around you, Anita. Have you got a rock star team? And I went, no, I don't. So, or maybe I do. I don't know who is the rock stars in my team, but you need a financial rock star. You need a client engagement rock star. You need a software developer rock star,
There's a lot of pieces. It's not just software,
and you
right?
need
It's a business you're trying to operate.
yeah.
Marketing, pivotal, like you said. If you don't have that aspect of it,
Marketing is
what's good?
critical.
It
Technology
is. Yeah.
stack
Yeah.
is critical. Having, I would have probably made some changes to the software stack if I'd had a bit more insight early on. We've had to really, learn a lot about the software, the back end, the front end, the website, all of the offering. How are the customers able to relate to it? It's been
Yes.
really big. Um, so I've had to
Yeah.
pull every skill out
That's
of my
and learn as you
roadmap.
go, and that's the fun, but that's the fun in the world of startups. So if anyone's looking to take that leap, that's what you're walking into. It's a lot of unknown. That's the reality. It's likely not going to go the way you expect. One of the things that we also discussed offline is the buyer and who is your actual buyer. And I know that's evolved quite a bit over time and who you position and who you target and who you talk to. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So buyers, initially when we had the as a product start, when we launched the prototype and MVP, the typical buyers were health and safety managers or
Okay.
risk or compliance managers in business. But what we've discovered is it's got a better fit with CEOs who actually understand and need it and can champion that across their organization. So and the industry as well has gone through a big. Initially, we launched it predominantly to manufacturing, but since then, what we are seeing now, we have two MSPs on the platform. We have customers who are CEOs of their own consulting firms. We have a couple of manufacturers. We have an IT company. So it's quite a mix.
Sounds
and,
like it. Which makes
and
it difficult too, though, doesn't it?
yeah, and the majority of the people who have, majority, 95%, are the CEOs, so the companies who signed it up for their business. So whether large or small, they're having the say around what they want to see in having a tool. The
Hmm.
other advantage we've had is people are not too adverse, and this is probably a part of the evolution, and
Yes.
probably has something to do with AI as well coming in.
Hmm.
People are not adverse to having different types of software or apps. Like in the olden days, people wanted one software that does everything.
Hmm.
And that still, I feel, is the holy grail.
The holy grail,
It's
yes, but
and
it's
it's not
not
gonna be,
reality though.
it's not
Yeah.
reality. But what I've seen in the last sort of 5 years, or probably 2 years, people
Hmm.
are not adverse to have, 3 or 4 pieces of software in a small to medium business,
Mm.
or and a large business particularly can have. A big program that does the health and safety requirements, but have a small tool for risk
Hmm.
and compliance like Lahibo. And that's where I've seen the adoption has really been
Good.
positive with the
Yep.
larger companies that are able to do that.
Hmm.
So I think the industry landscape is evolving. Wherever it's a highly regulated industry, is effectively needs a product tool like
Hmm.
this that they can use across their states, if
Yes.
they're
Yep.
Australian or New Zealand, national and international in that way. They can use the product Lehibo across
Across it.
across the organization and not have those silos. So it's sort of real data that helps
Mm.
them, yeah, and be able to run their business without having manual processes and spending a lot of time and effort not knowing what they're actually missing,
Makes sense.
which can be,
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest adherence, or because I should say, the 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 aim of the
Hmm.
software is to prevent businesses from being fined. The fines, if
Yeah.
you have regulatory breaches, can be enormous for businesses.
They can shut a business down, really.
It can
Yeah.
shut a business down. The directors of businesses can be, there could be adverse media coverage on all the
Hmm.
newspapers, the websites. WorkSafe in different states can prosecute,
Yes.
and it doesn't look good on tenders, and they can't, it doesn't look good, and they have to disclose this information when they go for tenders. So it's not a good
Mm.
look, and it's going to help
No,
not
it
help
just
you grow
impacts
your
their business
business.
long term, doesn't
And
it?
and from a staff cultural point of view as well, it's going to cost you. So
Mm.
having a software to manage your compliance then means that you're actively, proactively putting a tool there to help your business navigate complexity in regulation and helping manage the risks
Hmm.
associated with it. So it's definitely pays for itself because the cost of a regulatory fine can be anywhere between 5K to hundreds or millions of
Yeah, it
dollars.
could be anything.
So
Correct.
the
Yeah.
larger the business, the more you are likely
Mm.
and have a probability of getting a fine if you have a regulatory breach in the hundreds of
Yes.
thousands of dollars,
Hmm.
plus adverse media coverage.
Mm.
So if you look at the total cost, it's quite high.
Hmm.
So having a proactive tool like Lahibo to manage their risk and compliance, a small cost to pay, which is all we're trying to
Yeah,
promote and help
see it as an
businesses.
investment, really. It's an
Yeah, it's an
investment in the future of
investment
the
in their own
business.
business.
Yes, correct. So it's important from that. I was going to ask, what's the vision of Lahiba? I think you dug in a little bit there, but it's stemmed in, and as you were saying that, it's all about helping the customer, which is something you said early days of Anitech. It's about helping the customer, making sure they're they're supported and comfortable in their own operation, and there's de-risking the business. What's the goal? What's the vision for you? Where would you like to see Lahiba get to
Um,
as a platform, as a product?
I think, look, there's a lot of thinking on this right
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
When we had the original product roadmap, we really wanted to grow Lahiba into a data software
Hmm.
business in over time. So from a risk and compliance data, if we look at data in that space, you're looking at everything from not only risk and compliance, which is real time information, but
Hmm.
then also things around monitoring. So many companies monitor hazards and environmental factors in their businesses. Again, if you could pull that data into real time information, it makes your risk and compliance a lot easier to actually focus on and have actions if
But
you
it
have real time data.
gives you
So
clear focus at the point in time of the
yeah,
problem rather than 12 months later, or at
Yes,
the point of a fine, like you said, because you haven't really actioned
we
anything
haven't.
or hasn't been unknown. Yeah.
Often the companies that
Mm,
have fines are fine, and we've worked with some companies that have been at that end and called us in.
mm,
They don't understand their own data. They don't know what
okay.
they don't analyze their own business data around safety or
Hmm.
environment or even their own processes,
Okay.
business processes. So that's where we would
Mm,
like to get to, and we would like to make particularly the compliance side more
hmm.
effective across different jurisdictions. So, for example, a company that has offices in
Hmm.
different countries could potentially use LAHIBA in the future because it's
Got it.
not just Australian compliance, but we'd like to expand it internationally as well. So again, yeah, so moving towards a data model,
Yes.
modeling that helps them make those risk and compliance decisions, and
Hmm.
then international growth.
Oh, brilliant, Anita. Thank you for coming on the DevReady podcast and sharing the journey of both Anitech and Lahibo to date. If anyone wants to learn more about Lahibo, you can check them out at lahibo.com, and we'll share some stuff with the show notes as well. Anita, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you talking about the experience to date, and looking forward to the next chapter as we look to drive this into some more organizations and make a bigger impact, as you said, into supporting them in their businesses.
Thank you for having me. It's been great to have a chat, Andrew.
You're welcome, Anita.
All right, thank you.